Hello everybody, this is TipTop MTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, I'm going to be ranking all of the Planeswalkers that are legal to be your commander in Brawl. So if you guys didn't see the video, last week I did a video where I talked about all the legendary creatures and I ranked them between F and S tier, and I kind of talked about why they're good as your commander. This is not referencing how they are within the deck, but as the head of your deck. So I'm going to talk about why they're good, why some are bad, why they deserve the ranking they give, and in this video I'm talking about Planeswalkers. Now this is not purely a power scale, this is kind of like a willingness to play scale. So think about it like, if a deck is powerful, I'm more likely to play it, but just because the deck isn't the most powerful doesn't mean it can't be an S tier. If a deck's really fun, but just doesn't meet the power level of some of the other decks, it can still rank really high. And if a deck is very weak, you know, the issue is, the reason that some of the weaker Planeswalkers and creatures end up being lower on the list is because they don't have the card support, and it's not fun to always lose. The deck kind of needs to have enough support and be able to win in order for it to rank fairly high on the list. So why don't we jump right into it, looking at the F tier. So F tier we have, I'm just going to kind of generalize these. These are pretty much just all of the Planeswalker deck Planeswalkers. So these are all generally very low power. They're meant to be introductory. They cost a lot for what they do. Some of them are really easy to build around. Like, I mean, Jace, you're gonna want to draw a lot of cards. But here, you know, for 6, you're gonna want to have a much more powerful effect rather than just a Johnny's Pride mate on all your creatures, but only once per turn. And like, it's just, they're kind of underwhelming, and they're meant to be introductory, kind of like Planeswalker decks. I mean, they are in Planeswalker decks, and we're starting to see them actually kind of get phased out. But like, all of these cards are just kind of underwhelming, and so that's why they all rank into F tier. They just don't do enough. They cost way too much in order to do anything with. So yeah. The other F tier in here is Teo, because honestly, even if you were trying to build around, like, some of the uncommon Planeswalkers in War of the Spark, I will admit, they are very underwhelming, but Teo, I can't even figure out a way to build around this, unless you're doing a Defender deck, in which case there are 20 million better commanders. This might be good in a Defender deck as part of your singleton, like the rest of your deck, but not as the commander. Alright, moving into D tier, we have Jiang Yu, we have Narset, we have Jaya. These are all just kind of they're like useful pieces. Dovin can make your opponent's stuff cost more and can prevent damage. Jaya can increase your damage. Narset can draw you some cards that stop your opponent. He can, you know, ramp you and put counters on things, but I mean, that sounds pretty good, but it's a monocolored, you know, low power Planeswalker because they're all uncommons and they're just not enough to build around. Ukin's on here because he's colorless. Do you really want to build a colorless deck with a standard card pool? That's very hard to do. While he may be powerful, there's just not enough support. Chandra here, you know, he can do a lot of different things, but there are just much better options for the same exact kind of deck. The Wanderer, again, kind of a useful utility piece, but maybe not good as the lead of a commander deck. Arlen could be the lead of a commander deck, but again, being monocolored and not having enough support in singleton is a worry here. Kasmina, again, kind of useful as part of the deck, of certain decks, but not good as a leader. Samut, I could see an argument for giving all your creatures haste, but I just feel like there are better options that just can synergize with your deck better. Nahiri is, again, kind of the same thing. We have Mu Yangling. These are all kind of just cards that they're useful as cards, but maybe not potent enough to interact with the rest of the cards in your library in such a way that you would want your commander to do that with. Like, this shuts down an opponent. This, I mean, kind of shuts down an opponent's strategy, but I mean, it lets you go through your deck fairly quickly, so that's what you're trying to do. That's kind of cool, but again, this works better in the deck. Obnixilis, again, monocolored. Karn, again, another colorless card. I mean, this one I could see someone trying to argue, but you don't even get to use the tutor effect, so we then move into the C tier. So these are where they're going to start being like playable. I could see someone trying to make the argument. Vivian Arcbow Ranger. This one, you do not get her -5, but I could see, like, it's better than all the other mono-colored uncommon planeswalkers for the fact that, boosting things up with counters a ton. You can use her as removal, so it does have some value in here. It just isn't as great as some of the others. Same thing with this Vivian. Casting things as though they had flash is a very potent effect, and you could totally build your deck around that, so that's why it's up here. Gideon, this one again is mono-colored, but also it's kind of a creature, so in itself it can give things vigilance and lifelink and indestructible, so I could see this being like the head of a combo deck maybe. We have Davriel, who will, I could see a deck built around this. It's very clear. You're going to want to make your opponent discard their hand as fast as possible, and then Davriel's just going to slowly chip in and kill them. Now, is that a very powerful effect? Is it a very fun effect? No, so that's why it ranks low. Elspeth Sun's Nemesis, again, a monocolored card here. You can dodge commander attacks using her escape cost, so that's why she ranks a little higher. She can also create blockers for herself, but she also doesn't gain loyalty, so you're just going to create a lot of value with this and then kill her and then recast. So if you're not playing this with Proliferate, it's not that great. We have a Johnny, Strength of Pride. This one is a very good and potent commander for a mono life gain deck, but there are just so many better options. Why would you create a Johnny's Pride Mate when it itself could be an indestructible Johnny's Pride Mate? So yeah, we have Liliana, who again is monocolored. A lot of my issues here are the monocoloredness. Brawl just isn't potent enough. I mean, duplicating a spell, that can be very cool, but again, I'd just rather have this as part of my deck. Chandra here, mono red can definitely run as a Brawl deck, but I just would prefer something like Torbran, and I think that's part of where I'm coming at, is that Planeswalkers just generally aren't as good as commanders because they can just be attacked. You can't attack my creature commander directly. You can't just say I'm attacking your commander, but here these guys can just be killed by any deck. Any deck can kill this, and so it's meh. But then like Sorin, he's cool in a vampire deck, but do you really want one color? Let's move into B tier. So Sarkhan, this is a monocolored planeswalker, which I know I was just bashing on, but it is very potent. If you can make a mono red planeswalker or a dragon deck, it's very fun. I'm not saying it's super powerful. This might be better in a red black Dragon's deck as part of the deck, but the fact that it can just murder your creatures that are attacking you is very powerful and very fun. It itself can also just self-contained, just create a bunch of blockers, so very, very interesting card. We also have Saheeli here, who clearly is giving you a non-creature theme. We just saw a bunch of new non-creature support. It allows you to duplicate your artifact, so, a blue-red artifact deck, it's definitely an interesting concept. We have Chandra, who is probably one of the more powerful mono-red planeswalkers for the fact that you can't counter it, and she can basically just enter the battlefield and put a clock on your opponent and just say, hey, you're dead in this many turns, and there's not much they can do about it. She also can be a board wipe in the command zone and a removal spell in the command zone. She is just very, very powerful. We also have Huatli, the Sun's Heart, who is one of the uncommon 3-cost planeswalkers from War of the Spark, but this one allows you to be a very potent commander for a Walls deck. Now, I'd rather have blue in my Walls deck, but this is probably the best option we have, and I could see someone trying to make the argument that, hey, gain a bunch of life, make things have their toughness deal damage instead of their power. That's a very potent effect that can do some very interesting things. It just is lacking some of the card support, so that's why it's not ranked a little higher. Vraska, this one gives you a very clear Death Touch theme. It gives you the best colors to play those themes, and so it just works well. We have Vivian, Monstrous Advocate, who is just card advantage and blockers and searching your library. Everything you're going to want to do in a singleton format. So very, very potent ability, even if it is monocolored. Jace, again, here is very useful for combo decks. If your goal is to mill yourself, having the ability to have your win con not get milled guaranteed because it's in your command zone is a very powerful effect. Kiora, this one is another, uncommon walker, but the ability to untap a permanent 7 times before you have to recast her is very powerful, and she's going to start generating you card draw. There are lots of little combos that Kiora works really well with, and so it just works really well, to be able to always have access to it as part of a combo. We have Dovin Grand Arbiter. This one allows you to create blockers, gain life, and generate card advantage. Maybe it's not a super clear build around, but it definitely is just a good value card that if you build your deck right can do some very interesting things. We have Ajani the Great-Hearted, who again is going to give you kind of a clear theme. You're either going to do life gain or you're going to do like +1/+1 counters and other planeswalkers. So very clear to build around, very powerful and potent abilities if used right. Kaya Orzhov Usurpa, again, very clear. You're going to be exiling things. If this, I'd rather throw this in a Esper deck alongside Ashiok and just do basically I'm going to exile everything and gain advantage for all the cards you have exiled. But this card is definitely an interesting one that started off really low in price and then shot up and then eventually lowered again. We have Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord. Again, if you're going to run in a vampire deck, I think this is definitely one of the Sorins you should consider, saying that it has a white in it, and it's going to give everything lifelink, so this is definitely a potential commander for a black-white get life gain deck, because you're just going to give everything lifelink. You're going to be able to guarantee to get at least one life gain trigger per turn, and if one of your key pieces like your Johnny's Pridemate gets killed, you can bring it back with Sorin. So very powerful. We have a Brawl, who again is probably one of the better Planeswalkers, for the fact that it can generate you card advantage, kill things, and is a finisher. So all of that being in the command zone is very powerful. We have, now moving into our A's, we have things like the Royal Scions, who are 3 cost, so that means they come out fairly quickly, and then they can let you draw extra cards, which there's a lot of advantage to. You can cycle through your deck for combo pieces. We have Teferi, who again is another 3-mana Planeswalker, who can just shut down your opponent, generate you card advantage, and let you do things at instant speed. We have Tezzeret, who is one of my personal favorite cards. It gives things affinity. It is just a very awesome commander for standard, and there may not be enough support for it, but I think it's very fun to play. We have Nissa, who just generates immense value. Always having in your command zone is very powerful, but it is more powerful to have it not in your command zone and then having like a Simic commander. We have Nico Bolas, who just is 3 color, which is very useful. It gives you a very clear, I want to play a bunch of Planeswalkers and just generate value kind of like idea. It's very clear that you want to do that. We have Narset the Ancient Way, who again is very clear, 3 color Planeswalker, who's just like, I want to cast non-creature spells. That's all I want to do, non-creature spells. We have Garuk, Curse Huntsman, who maybe isn't as clear of a build around, but I think it's very fun. It's just a fun card. Domri, who again is another 3-mana Planeswalker, who just ramps you, protects you from counter spells, and is removal all in the command zone, and it's a boost to all your creatures, so just lots of value. Ashiok, another 3-mana Planeswalker, just allows you to just absolutely start milling your opponent, and the fact that he'll eventually kill himself isn't always a bad thing, because then you can replay him from the command zone, so he generates a lot of value from being your commander. We have this other Domri, who I actually rank higher than the 3-cost Domri because I think it's more interesting. It ramps you, it gives things haste and counters, it lets you get card advantage, and it's a finisher. I know it costs 1 more and maybe isn't as potent right away, but in a Gruul like mid-range deck it can be kind of cool. We have Vraska, who just can destroy a ton of Planeswalkers. You'll notice that a lot of these are converted to mana cost 3 or less, and actually a lot of the good commanders are just 3 or less. It allows you to gain life, draw cards, sacrifice permanents, and it's a finisher, so very potent. We have Luca, who again, even though he's monocolored, he's kind of new, and so that's probably why he's higher on this list than he might be, because he's monocolored. He generates you carded value, he can cheat things into play, and he is a finisher. Again, being a finisher adds a lot of value. Now let's move into the S tier. This is including things like Ashiok, Nightmare's Muse, very clear build around. You're going to exile a ton of things, whether it's you're exiling them from people's graveyards, exiling them straight off the board, exiling them from your hand, and then you're going to proliferate up to Ashiok's -7 and just win the game by casting their finishers, which is a very fun little game plan. Calyx, who just very clearly is meant to be a enchantment-based Planeswalker, maybe better in the 59, but I actually really enjoy playing it as a commander. And that's actually it. So, in terms of S tier, I have 2, and I think that's supposed to really show how Planeswalkers don't work that well as commanders because they can be attacked. They generally are like, I mean, they can kind of change how combat works. It's just, I would much rather have a creature that is more stable on the board and can just generate value by their abilities. So I would just rather have a creature, and so that's why a lot of these aren't ranked in the S tier. Calyx and Ashiok, actually both Theros Planeswalkers, are both very fun, and that's about it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about Planeswalkers in Brawl. Let me know what your favorite Planeswalkers are. Those are just generally my thoughts about the Planeswalkers. I know I rushed through them pretty quickly, but that's because there are a lot of them. I mean, just looking through this. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Again, if you guys didn't see the one where I talk about creatures, check that out. Yeah, see you guys in the next one. Bye.